Before we get started in this action-packed double feature by John Woo, please hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. Today in theaters is Silent Night. That is the new John Woo film. It's been close to 20 years since he's done an American film over here. But we're gonna take it back to one of his original joints, all right? One of his original joints. This is Hardboiled.
This movie is a film noir where you've got this hard-boiled cop, right, who's tired of working within the system, and he's a little bit crazy, a little bit wacky, you know, and he's trying to solve this problem, to solve this crime issue where these gangsters are selling guns and drugs, it seems, but mostly guns, in Hong Kong. And this just cannot be allowed to happen. No matter what, he doesn't give an F. He's going to kill all these gangsters by himself single-handedly. And that is just such an absurd idea, but it's very John Woo. And Chow Yun-Fat is game. Like, this dude, he's like leaning sideways, sliding down stairwells. Like, it is crazy. And the first thing that really jumps out at you with these shootouts is the level of debris. They start by showing you all this fragile stuff. Oh, here's some birds in the cage. Here's some glass. Here's a whole bunch of stuff that could easily fall over. And by the end, the set is just destroyed. Like, everything is full of explosives. Everything blows up and falls over. It is crazy, the amount of debris. Now, what's really interesting about that debris, modern day stuff, it's all CGI. And the reason why it's CGI, it is cheaper, but mostly it's less time consuming. If someone messes up, right, how do you reset everything? You got to take hours to put the whole set back together, right? So a take two is like a big deal. It's like, yo, you got to nail this shit. And
not only that, it was filmed on film.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It was filmed with the actual film. What's interesting about that, I noticed a little hair on the film, which I thought was kind of cool. Not a thing that happens anymore. Even hair on the lens back then stopped production. You got to clean the lens, right? Got to disassemble the camera and clean the lens. So think about all this debris flying around, these very sensitive cameras that have one little hair could stop production. Like, the meticulousness of this film it just blew me out the water. Not only does John Woo do this over and over and over again, he decided to just show off by having this long single take shot where they run down this hallway, they go up an elevator, they dive over this thing, blow this thing up. It is so long. The people they're on this side of the hallway, and they swap back, they move. It is just so elaborate. He is just showing off. He's like, I dare you to copy me. I dare you. Can you do it? And it's like, no, who could do that?
No.
And I'm like, is he ever gonna cut this camera? He does not. I can almost feel John Woo like turning and looking in the camera, like, you see this shit? You see this? Like, damn, showing off.
He has these shots there to make it feel like you're right behind them.
Yes,
you're right there with them, going through this hospital.
We were talking beforehand that John Woo is a madman, and this movie is just like, it's like, John, stop. Okay, you blown up the hospital. He's like, okay, but what about the babies? And I'm like, the babies, And it's like, okay, we got all the babies out. Shoo-woo, one more baby. And I'm like, John.
Those babies got to be in their 30s now, and they got to have traumatizations. Like, man, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was a kid and I had all these explosions around me and blood was going down my face.
These poor kids gotta be fucked up.
Earlier this year, we saw an attempt to recreate something like this, The Flash, where he was trying to save all with the babies. They were trying to save all the babies, and you can tell that's CGI.
Right.
John Woo used real kids.
Real babies. John.
Tequila has to team up with an undercover triad guy by the name of Alan. Alan's been deep undercover in the triads, working for like the smuggler kingpin. And then there's this other guy by the name of Johnny who wants to take over. And he does, because Alan murders the kingpin guy. You know, he's very like conflicted with all that after it happens, because he's like, am I getting too deep into this game where I'm losing myself?
Exactly. He's on a crisis of identity. He's like, am I the cop or am I the criminal? I've done so many copy things, but I've also done so many criminal things. He's losing himself.
I'm like, dang, John Woo is actually getting into some like character arc in here.
It's like, there's a story, and there's twists and double crosses. I'm like, what? It's crazy.
The commissioner, as you would call it, did not trust Tequila. He didn't trust him. He didn't care about him. There's a scene where the female officers is talking to the commissioner. He said, we got to get Alan out of there. And she's like, Tequila's down there too. You don't care about him? He's like, he just stares off the distance.
Right. The girl was there to show that the police chief or whatever had showed favoritism, that he didn't really like Tequila, our main character, but he did like and was very protective of his undercover agent. Tequila hated the undercover guy. He was like, you're barely even a cop anymore. And so, they clashed all the time. But in order to get out of the hospital, they had to work together. So this movie was like really well made and like really put together, better than I was expecting. You could tell the budget was low, or at least I guess the budget wasn't low, but they blew all their budget on all the explosives and stuff.
Yeah.
Because instead of having a dove, there's just like a photo of a dove in the back. The budget couldn't tolerate it.
Where it said God wings or underneath our wings.
He just had a photo of a dove. I'm like, dang, he really blew it out. He was like, oh yeah, I forgot. Dove's my thing. Stick one right there. He's just so unapologetically himself and so show-offy, And in this movie, this is the most show-offy I've even, maybe not, I don't know. It's like neck and neck with Face Off here, how show-off he is. But in this movie, he even went so far as to cast himself as the bartender in the film.
The bartender.
He was like, I'll blow up this whole set and I'll physically sit here and watch it. like you think I'm not that dude? I'm that dude. I'm like, damn.
What's the reasoning of him leaving the United States and going back to his roots and making films overseas?
From what I understand, he was very frustrated with the committee system that we use here in the United States. That I think, I don't know, but I imagine if he had an idea, he could just do it in China. Whereas here in the United States, they had to get things approved. They're like, I gotta make sure the safety measures are this and that and the other. He's one of, unfortunately, a lot of directors who come to America thinking that they're gonna make it big, but they get chewed up in this effed up, messed up system, which is very interesting because we watched another film, Broken Arrow, and I feel like I could see a little bit of this creeping in. I could feel some interference.
We got ourselves a broken arrow.
A broken what?
It's what we call it when we lose a nuclear weapon.
I don't know what's scarier, losing nuclear weapons, or that it happens so often there's actually a term for it.
1996, I believe, when this came out. Right before Face Off, which is so hilarious that he casted John Travolta for both of these films. He was like, you know what? I love the kookiness of this guy, and I'm going to put him in both films. So we got Christian Slater and John Travolta. They are U.S. Air Forcemen, and they are running like a test run with these nuclear warheads, and they're flying.
What logic is that? Like, immediately. The movie is just like, don't think about it. Plot's broken immediately. Like, all of the credits have stopped running. And they're like, this is a practice run. But anyway, we got 2 nukes in the back. And I'm like, what? For the practice run?
During this little test flight, John Travolta just goes crazy. He starts whooping up on Christian Slater. He ejects him out of the plane. And he is taking these nuclear warheads to a spot where it can be picked up by the rest of his crew, so he can sell them back to the United States for $250 million, which was a lot back then, I guess. but I mean, dude, nowadays it better be some $5 billion up in there.
That's funny.
Before all this happened, by the way, John Travolta and Christian Slater, they're up there like fighting in the ring and they're boxing and stuff, is like sparring. Christian Slater, he gets a little bit of the upper hand for a little bit, but nope, John Travolta comes around and he gets him. They kind of talk about, you had the upper hand, but you don't never want to go the extra mile.
Right. He doesn't have the will to beat him.
Could it be that you've been boxing for 20 years and you're better at it than I am?
No. You don't have the will to win.
Your insight is shattering.
If you look back at Hardboiled, right, the structure of Hardboiled, and then you look at the structure of Broken Arrow, you can tell this one is much more American. When you're writing a story, right, especially for a Western audience, they all have the same rhythm, exactly the same. A side character will always tell the main character the mission statement of the whole movie, right? And John Travolta like looks into the camera, he's like, he doesn't have the will. And it's like, got it. Okay. So it's all about the will. Okay. So, immediately you can feel very not John Woo-y things happening, already in the film. You can feel some hands, dipping in. This movie is simple. Super
duper simple.
You have more or less described the entire film. No twists, right? That's it, right? It's like John Travolta goes crazy. He's trying to sell the nukes. Our main character, Christian Slater, has to stop him. There's a girl involved because it's an American film. Other than that, there really is no other plot. That's it. Like, the simplicity of this film is insane compared to how complex the double crosses and all that stuff are going on in Hardboiled.
It's hilarious how comically evil John Travolta is in this. Oh, John Travolta arms the nuke because he basically feels like he's gonna lose anyway. So he's like, I'm gonna blow up everything. I'm crazy. Yeah. And Howie Long's like, turn that thing off now. Howie Long, the ex-football player, he's a henchman in this. Freaking Christian Slater has his rope and he swings through. They're on a moving train, by the way. Right. He swings through the freaking door, kicks Howie Long out the other side of the door of the train, and you hear the damn cartoon freaking Looney Tunes.
Very strange movie. It is kind of like Coyote and Roadrunner. They're literally in the desert and they, they're all trying to stop each other with like little technology things, Yeah. Except the movie doesn't have a sense of humor, right? It doesn't have I feel like there's no fun to be had here. This movie setting was like as boring and as sterile as possible.
One spot.
They've got a very boring setting. They really never deviate from that. They go down into mines a little bit, but other than the train, they really are just standing around the desert. There's a cliche of a bull in a china shop, right? What makes that interesting is the china shop, right? The thing that everything can break, right? And that's what John Woo is. But this is a bull in the desert, so there's nothing that's gonna break. It's very safe, very dull. They really took everything that makes John Woo interesting and they just took that out. They're like, no. You can feel the leash on John Woo. It felt less like a John Woo film and more like an upgraded episode of Walker, Texas Ranger.
In the eyes of a ranger, the unsuspecting stranger had better know the truth of wrong from right.
So you see like the girl that's in this and she's supposed to be like the companion to Christian Slater to help
the love interest. Yeah.
And here's what I want to say about the love interest thing. You can tell they changed a aspect at the end, okay? Because normal when you have the love interest in here and you got the hero, he's like all banged up and stuff. She's all banged up, and they'd be like, "Where do we go next?" Anywhere you want to go. And then they kiss. But in this, they did a freaking close up of the Predator handshake, but it was
That's funny.
You son of a bitch.
It was up to their chest, and I'm like, somebody said they shouldn't kiss.
Oh, that's interesting. I actually thought it was the opposite. I thought John Woo had no interest in our main character having I'm assuming John Woo has got no interest in our main character having a love interest, and he was forced to. So he did as little as possible. He's like, there you go. They're like, shake hands. He's got no interest in that shit. He just wants our characters to start shooting things, My issue with this film, and don't take this the wrong way. I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. I thought this movie was dumb. In that it's just the complexity of John Woo's other films are just not here. But I wasn't sure what the movie wanted me to get out of that. I was ready to laugh along with the film once I realized how simple it was, but there really weren't that many laughs or anything. I feel like tonally we were just kind of all over the place. It's not bad. It's just not as neat. The level of complexity where you're just like, John, stop! It's not here. He's not doing that.
He has been
stopped.
You're like, John, go.
Yeah, go, man, go. And you can feel him. He's like, but somebody's holding him back. This isn't like a total loss, but I just don't think it's as good as some of his other films.
Compared this to like freaking Hardboiled, Face Off, this is extremely tamed for John Woo. Especially after seeing Hardboiled. I'm so glad we did this double feature because it's like you can definitely see two sides of a coin when it comes to what you have with a director who have all the freedom he does in his own country, and then when he's here, they're like, you gotta tone it down a little bit because you got these expenses and stuff. We don't need you to get all wooified.
They're like, you're telling me that if someone makes one mistake, we just lose the day? We just have to like start everything? No. Let's just set this in the desert. Keep things so much simple, which I think you lose a lot of that fun that John Woo is so known for.
So for Broken Arrow, I give this film a C+. He had the leash on him, like you said. He didn't have the reins to do what he wanted as he would in China or even on some other sets that he's done here in America.
Yeah, I hate to say, but I'm giving this one a C. Strangely, and I hate to say it, this is a vacuum film. You just turn it on.
Yeah.
You just gotta turn it on. Every time you glance at the camera, glance at the TV, you might see something interesting, but most likely you're just gonna see empty desert, So this is just something that goes on in the background. You don't need to pay attention. There's not a gajillion characters. There's no twist, no double cross. It can just play in the background while you're playing your phone, or you go back on the floor, or go use the bathroom, or whatever, and you won't miss anything.
Would you recommend this film for people to see?
No. Especially knowing what John Woo has. He's got a filmography, my friends. Okay, this guy kills the game. Don't watch this one though. You watch like almost anything else.
I don't recommend people sitting down and enjoying this film either.
You're out of your mind.
Ain't it cool?
Broken Arrow.
So for Hardboiled, this film was really, really fun for me. Yes, it was subtitled. I had to read it. Okay. but it was okay for me to do it, man. It was cool. Chow Yun-Fat was really cool. I thought that it was really cool that what he really wanted to do in life was be a jazz musician, not a cop.
Right.
That was cool. And the other guy,
that's
Alan,
called character.
It's called character.
That thing that's missing from Broken Arrow.
Yeah. The guy, Alan, he wanted to just retire up in Antarctica because it was light up there, and he said down here is nothing but darkness. I'm like, yo, the action was amazing and absurd, which made it amazing. So I'm gonna have to give this a B+.
I'm giving Hardboiled an A. I loved it. Every time I thought I had the movie figured out, there was another twist. Not only just like a literary twist or like a story-wise twist where there are double crosses, but then there's more action. You think, okay, well, I guess the rest of the movie is going to be, in this hospital. Oh, there's a morgue. Oh, there's a whole weapons cache under the hospital. Oh, the babies are upstairs. Oh shit, the babies are in a shootout. The movie just kept going.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you're just like, I'm tired. Please, dude, I beg you to just stop for a minute, please. The level of insanity is what I love so much about John Woo. And this film, I think, is just fantastic. This movie is worth it for that one long take alone. Like, that one long is so impressive.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable. I say this a lot, but you will never see another shootout like that anymore. And because there's a logistical reason to not have that much physical debris everywhere. Who's going to clean that up for the second take? If if Chow Yun-Fat, messes up a line, well, reset. If Chow Yun-Fat steps out of his light, reset. Little things like that will just kill it all. And not only does John Woo do this once, he does this like for the entire freaking film. I mean, you ever seen someone show off like that? So fun.
Now, would you recommend for people to see this film?
Absolutely. It's an easy recommendation, again, just for that hospital shootout alone.
Yeah, I recommend people seeing this film. If you are a fan of action films, this is definitely the start of Gung Fu. Okay.
True.
The producers and directors of John Wick saw this and said, okay.
Yeah. And you can see all those influences, like you said, John Wick. You can see so much influences from The Matrix. Obviously, the lobby scene in The Matrix was clearly a version of a John Woo film where just everything just disintegrates, all the pillars just fall apart, and there's all this debris and dust, so you can see the influences here. Oh, there's even a guy with a shotgun and some roses, just like in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
So you can see John Woo picking out things that he likes, from other movies. You can see other people picking out things that he likes, that they like from his movies. This is a very fun film.
But more importantly, do you recommend this film? Have you seen Hardboiled, No Reload? Please hit that subscribe button down at the bottom. That's not what's hard-boiled. Right. If you are new to seeing our faces, please do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. It's right there.
And if you like John Woo, there's going to be another review on John Woo film coming up soon, because he's got a new film that's out today. So tune in for the channel.
I think it's produced by the same people who produced John Wick too. So they work together on this film. So it's gonna be action out the wahoo.
I suspect that leash is on him tight, so tight. That's what I suspect. I mean, you think they care a lot about that kind of stuff back in the 90s? They care twice as much now. So it'd be very fascinating to see what version of John Woo we get for Silent Night.
I agree. And if you did like the rating and review for this film, please hit that thumbs up. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion, but just remember one thing, it is mostly wrong. See you in another action-packed review. Peace.